Interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't help but bring that up. I know we're here to talk
Yeah.
about it, but I couldn't help but bring that up. I was like, hold on a sec.
Why not?
Yeah.
It's
um,
practically 70 degrees.
yeah. Welcome on, Joe. This is not live, by the way. This will be posted later, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
So I guess why don't you go ahead and maybe just introduce yourself and a little bit about what you do.
All right. So my name is Joe Lauria, and I'm the evening meteorologist here at Fox 4 WDAF TV, Kansas City, and been here now. Just started my 32nd year
Wow.
doing Kansas City television. So it's been parts of now 4 decades for me. I started January 1st of 1995, and here we are, predominantly doing weekends. First 25 years doing weekends, and the last 7-ish years doing the evening shift. I replaced Mike Thompson, who retired and went on to do some political and is doing political things over on the Kansas side as a Kansas State senator, I think.
Okay.
I don't know politics, so but he's doing that. And when he departed, they wanted me to take that role, and so here we are. I've thoroughly enjoyed being off of weekends, having my weekend time back.
Yeah.
That weekend shift. At first, when I took this shift, I actually missed the weekend shift because I used to get 3 days off during the week, and I enjoyed that. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays were my days off.
Yeah.
Because I work mornings and nights, Saturday and Sunday. And as I got older, certainly when I crossed 50-ish years old, that turnaround from Saturday night to Sunday morning got to be a lot more difficult because I would get home at around 11:30, and then I'd have to wake back up again at around 5:30.
Okay.
And be back at work by 6-ish. So that's 6 a.m. So that got to be tiresome, and that was on a calm weekend. When we had snow, I would spend the night here at the station because I didn't want to drive home and drive back in the snow. And when we had big storms or the risk of severe weather, that extended my days out a little bit more. When we had football or basketball, whatever, that would extend my days out a little bit more. So it was getting tougher and tougher to do that shift. So it was a well-timed change of shifts, I guess you could say.
Yes. You started out in up in the Northeast, correct? And then kind of went through like different states as you built your career.
Well, I grew up in New York, just north of New York City, New Rochelle, about 20 miles north of the city. And I kind of got into weather when I was in 3rd grade. That was when I started to get fascinated by snowstorms and blizzards. We used to get them back there. And that's what kind of got me going in the world of weather. And we run a promo here at the station about how I used to write book reports, and I would bore my teachers because every book report would be weather connected,
Right.
and how rain forms, snow forms, blah, 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 blah. And I was just fascinated by it. And in high school, they used to call me Weatherman Joe because I was just, always watching the TV weather people back in New York City. This was back in the old days when we only had a handful of channels. And so when I got into college, I knew I wanted to become a meteorologist. I kind of wanted to do television, wasn't sure. Jobs tough to come by in the late 70s, early 80s. So it all fell into place. I was fully prepared to go to graduate school after graduating at St. Louis University with a Bachelor of Science degree. And it just worked out that about a month before I graduated, this little station in the middle of a cornfield in Southern Illinois had an opening. And I went. They hired me pretty much on the spot. They had no other applicants. It was one newscast at 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. So and I had no weather information there. This was back in 1984. We didn't have maps or anything. So I would kind of do my forecasting at St. Louis University. I would drive 75 miles, do the TV show, and then drive back right afterwards. So that was my first job. I got paid $200 a week, and stayed there for about 3 years. The station ownership, it was a family. They opened a new station in Florida. I went with them down there for about 3 years. They were having financial issues. I ended up taking a job in West Texas and gave my notice in Florida, and they closed the whole station down within about an hour or a week or whatever it was. They were losing their favorite person. Just kidding. And stayed in West Texas for about 5 years. Kansas City called. I knew I had done everything I could do in West Texas, so it was time to come up and try a bigger market and be exposed to all 4 seasons.
Totally.
And here we are.
Nice.
Here we are. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely important to be exposed to all the seasons. I think that definitely played a role in me being passionate about weather, because I used to live in Arizona until I was about like 3, and then we ended up moving to this area. So, and then I was like, what the heck is all these severe storms? I was like, what does that mean?
Right.
I hate that. Yeah. So, yeah.
My mom is out in Arizona, and she lives just south of Phoenix. And I was out there just recently at Christmas, just past Christmas. It was just stunningly beautiful weather. 70-ish during the day, 50-ish at night, blue sky. I mean, I totally get it. Totally get why people move out there. But I typically will go out there in the summer to check on her, play some golf when it's 115.
Yeah.
And it doesn't bother me all that much, but yeah, that's a rougher go of things.
Yeah.
Out there, and they get all excited about monsoons.
Yep.
My favorite type of weather has been, was, and still is snow. I still, in terms of forecasting and the complexities associated with it, I enjoy that challenge more than I enjoy the severe weather challenge. There are some people who just are into severe weather, but not me. Not me.
Yeah, at some point, yeah, definitely. Later, I'd like to definitely touch more on the snow aspect too, for sure, and like the challenges, because I, as far as forecasting it, I'm certainly not the best at it. I've been okay at it, but of course, everyone at school always like, how that works. Like, Mikey, how much are we gonna have? We have school tomorrow. It's like,
and excuse me for 1 second, I got to pull out a power pole. Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah, no problem.
My phone just died, so I want to make sure I have power. So for me, like I said, I enjoy the challenge. Hold on. Okay. I enjoy the challenge of the snow, the rain snow, the mixture, the when do we convert over, the taking into account the ratios and ground temperatures and blah, 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 blah. And I've always been that way. And with snow forecasting especially, I've typically found that experience is a big thing around these parts. There are some winters where, it's our winter. It's our winter. We haven't had one of those in a long time, back 10, 15 years.
Probably.
Yeah. But on occasion we get them.
Yeah, 2018 and 19 was interesting.
Yeah,
that
was a good one. And then 09, 10, 10, 11, when we had the thunder snows all over the place and 35, 45 inches of snow. And even then I was like, I'm over it. Let's move on. But some of these winters, like the one we're experiencing now, where it's kind of painful.
That's a way to put it.
We had that one event on December 1st, and
yeah.
The event on Friday night doesn't look to be any big deal. curiosity snows, as I call it, but that's about it. Most people will be sleeping, and if they sleep too late Saturday morning, it's all going to melt away anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a little frustrating. Then, we do our long-term winter forecast, our winter forecast that we have fun with, and I'm biased on the high side. I freely admit it, and I went 19 inches this winter, and I can't imagine. I mean, about 10 days ago, I told Alex, I was like, yeah, that's on life support already. The winter's not even a quarter of the way through, and it's don't like the trends. Don't like the trends. So, but anyway, it's fun, and snow, people either love it or hate it.
Yep.
Severe weather, it's something that, aside from flooding, happens so quickly.
Totally.
And people get revved up about it, but I think people get more revved up because the TV stations in markets where you get snow get themselves way more revved up about snow, because they can do that 2 or 3 days ahead of time.
Yes.
They could start getting themselves going.
Mm-hmm.
And with severe weather, they're not as crazy except during the event itself.
Yes.
During the event, and God forbid, whatever happens afterwards.
Of course, yeah.
So,
on that note, I wanted to move into, I guess, one of our more recent historic events regarding the tornado side of severe weather, and something that I know you and I have already talked a little bit about before, and that I'm sure you have talked to your colleagues a lot about. And I know we were, well, I'll introduce the day first, I guess, but about May 28th, 2019. So we were watching Channel 9 that day, and they absolutely killed it. All of our stations here did. But yeah, so I've also gone back and watched your coverage many times, and just want to kind of walk me through your experience with that event and kind of the season around it too. But yeah, just that day and in the days leading up to it, as we saw the risks increase, and then that morning how the meteorology played out, and then get into the event itself. That makes sense.
So, you can kind of tell that we were setting up for something, but for this specific area, getting the big honkers are really, so rare for us, for whatever reason. We're fortunate that Kansas City, people think of us as being, tornadoes, ooh. Well, it's not really tornadoes, it's flooding. For us. Yep. Although, we've had hail, we get the bad hail. But, these crazy tornadoes like what happened out in Linwood, those are rare things. And before that, of course, it was, the early 2000s with the west part of the metro, north side of Kansas City getting that tornado EF4. So they're rare events. I think people's awareness was pretty high about what could happen. And I think when you're on the air, regardless of what station, and everybody does a really good job around these parts, you have typically very experienced people on the air, because that's a challenge in some other markets, where smaller markets, people are new and stuff like that. But there are some even in smaller markets that do a really good job. But you have stabilized talent who have seen a lot of things. And for me, at least, when I remember, in terms of our coverage, the leading up to the coverage, from my standpoint, is I need to make sure, A, the viewers know what's going on, know the eventualities, and B, that the station, the news team knows what's going on, because I need them to be more or less in place in case we need to do wall to wall. We need to send crews out to where they always want to, where's the tornado going to be? I don't know. But I can tell you that the chances of us having a tornado of significance is a little higher this time through than other time throughs. So the coverage itself, I had Carly with me. We had Michelle out there. We had Carly, Michelle, Gary Frank was here with at the time. I just remember Michelle, who was chasing out in the Lawrence area.
Yes.
Witnessing stuff that she witnessed and her voice cracking.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Carly, we had one of our Casey Scout cameras kind of showing this wall of blackness. And within that wall was, that honker. And the pit in your stomach, it was the same exact feeling that I saw when we had the North Kansas City tornado, when we had the chopper showing us that tornado coming out of Wyandotte County into Platte County. You just get a pit in your stomach because it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. So typically what will happen is, my tone of voice will start changing. And what I tried to do, if I remember, during that particular event, is I always try to bring relevance when we're talking about that type of tornado. And what I was trying to do, if I remember from that event, was making the connection to what was going on now was similar to what happened in the early 2000s with the Wyandotte County, Platte County storm.
Of course.
And I want people to paint that mental image in their head so that perhaps they're a little bit more likely to get themselves into a safe spot. And that's the bottom line. We want people to do what they need to do. And then I also need to make sure that I'm telling people who are outside the path of the tornado that you're fine. South and east of that area, you're fine. There's not much happening right now. So you have to sort of balance everything. But the most important thing is basically telling people where it is, where it's going, what to do, where it is, what it's going, what to do. Try to give people ahead of the track or ahead of the storm even more leeway or more heads up about what's coming their way. And so, so the way I tell people after all severe weather coverage, last year wasn't too bad. 2 years ago, we were on the air a ridiculous amount of time.
Yeah.
That was probably the most since I've ever been here.
Wow, really?
With all the events. And what I tell people is afterwards, you feel like you've gone through a 10-round fight. You're just worn out. You've talked forever. You're running back and forth. You're talking to producers. You're looking for pictures. You're looking for video. They're throwing things at you. You're trying to, my job is to try to be the gatekeeper. And, does Michelle have something? Let's go to Michelle. All right. I'm being told somebody's telling me in my ear while Michelle's talking that we've got flash flooding happening in blank. All right, let's go to that. So it's a lot. And at the time doing it, and I say I don't like coverage of severe weather that much, but at the time you're doing it, you're doing some good. And those days are sometimes, in some aspects, a lot easier than going with tornadoes that may or may not be on the ground. Middle of the night, we're getting no real visual confirmation. When there's a they don't do 45-minute warnings really anymore. But when they do a half-hour warning for something very marginal, and now you're just blathering, essentially. I don't enjoy that coverage.
I could see that, especially if it's on during a sporting event or something like that. That's another.
And that is a whole can of worms. There are a couple of stories. One I remember way back when that this was on a Saturday night or a Sunday night. we were showing Cops, the old TV show Cops,
Okay.
and I was cutting in. I had to get on tornadoes, and you would have thought I shot the Pope. Because obviously, the terrain affected directly by a tornado, on the ground or not, is pretty minuscule when you think that we cover 30,000 square miles or whatever the heck we cover, 3,000 square miles of western Missouri and eastern Kansas. So people are mad, and they're letting me know. And you just remember that. Joel Nichols used to work at Channel 9. Great story. This is a long time ago. He was doing coverage of a tornado warning on Palm Sunday. So on ABC on Palm Sunday, they always run the 10 Commandments. And he was cutting over the 10 Commandments and providing important tornado warning information.
Mm-hmm.
And he said people were calling the station and just cursing up a storm.
That's interesting, isn't it?
All sorts of bad words being thrown out as they were trying to watch the 10 Commandments. So I just thought the irony of the whole thing was just bizarro to me.
That's for sure.
And I've loved that story, and I've repeated that story so many times.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, love it. Love it. So there is your yin and yang as far as tornado coverage goes.
Yeah. As far as the meteorological, like side, I guess, to the synoptics behind the Linwood event, it's very interesting because, like, I know that was one of the few times for me that I can remember, because that was also like I started getting into weather around 2015, 2016, so. And then I didn't start really tracking it like on radar scope and all that till about, I think 2018 was my first year. So before that, so for Oak Grove, I was still using the Weather Channel radar, so I couldn't really see where anything was really as far as velocity, and then I think I only got into SPC around 2017, maybe 18. So by then I could use it, and then mesoanalysis, barely I could use a bit, but not a whole lot. So I wasn't able to really dissect events like I can now, before I head out and chase or anything, but I remember that morning feeling like, Dude does have teeth, because I do remember got up. I know we had been in an enhanced for like 3 days, I think, and I noticed that it was just that very thick, almost foggy look. I think we were like right on the front, maybe right north, maybe right north of it. But I still noticed when I checked SPC, mesoanalysis, I meant. And I noticed that we did still have some cake values lingering around still. I was like, it was only like 6 a.m. Like my middle school started very early. So it was still early. So, and then I remember it being enough. I think we were under like a 10%. Maybe I think it was a little north of us still. They hadn't come out with a moderate yet. But it was enough to get me to like be like, I told my dad, I was like, I think there's like a 10% chance for tornado. So just be careful or whatever. And, but it was enough to kind of be like, oh, that does sound a little high. Cause it depends on who you tell that to, but and so I got to school and that's when the moderate came out. And, hold on, there we go. Sorry about that. If you heard there's noise or whatever, but, it was interesting because when I think of, classic tornado outbreak setups, more of a lower end one, but still pretty potent. October 24th of 2021 was a decent example. It was almost like a mini May 4th, 2003 almost. It was like, I think of classic setups where there's a trough ejection and, you get like an arc of storms that go up or whatever. It's very much like, you start the day with the fog and the clouds and maybe the front lifts north. And then you get a brief period of sunshine and all that. Or maybe it's not that brief, but you get some sunshine, you get cumulus, and then you get the anvil cover from storms, and then you got tornadoes. But it's like this day, I don't really remember the sun coming out at all on May 28th, at least not here. It was more out west, kind of like Greensburg of this last year. Not the 2007, but this last year, where it's like you have a clear area, and then it goes up and moves into like a milky area. It's just very weird. Did you notice any of that?
Yeah, so what I remember about that, because I do remember, you mentioned it and you alluded to it in your recollection, is that kind of cloudy and foggy, murky sky was exactly the same sky we had back in the KC tornado in the early 2000s. Exactly the same. Woke up in the morning, it was foggy, temperatures were in the 50s, dew points were in the 50s, and it just had that look first thing in the morning, where if we could get the instability we had this year, we were going to have the surface cape, assuming we broke out, which we did. So it's interesting how the similarities between the two are there. And then what even fascinates me more, and I remember post Linwood creating a graphic that showed how similar the tracks were to some extent. I mean, within a few miles of each other. You could have overlaid the early 2000 tornado and the Linwood tornado, and you'd be not right on top of each other, but pretty darn close. So an amazing coincidence.
Yeah,
I thought.
Very interesting.
But yeah, you had the surface low, you had so many things coming together, and eventually, boom, 170 mile an hour tornado, and there we go.
Yeah. So as far as the coverage, when there's a significant event, and how you relay the information and try to convey the seriousness, but maybe not shove everything in their face, but kind of let the audience come to their own conclusion. I find that very impressive. First of all, that's something I definitely try to follow as much as I can, but still slip up sometimes. But love that. I think that's just brilliant the way you put that. As far as when you were doing that coverage, I think everybody tracking weather that day, however they were locally, were all experienced tremendous anxiety, especially everybody in Kansas City, and in their own way, I think. But so how did you deal with that? Because while you were covering this, because I mean, people here, XYZ.
So on a personal side of things, when I would send it to Carly to bring out an update. So what typically happens is, especially on these type of significant events, we're essentially two people on the air, maybe a third helping. Gary Frank was helping a little bit that day too, on the air. He's also back here looking at chat from the Weather Service. And in that type of scenario, when the other person is talking, so let's say, here's Carly with more information, Carly, and she's been looking at chat, so she's getting maybe some wind reports or something that the Weather Service is saying privately to us in the chat room about, hey, there's a murky boundary lurking in this area. We're concerned about this or that or the other, or we just got a wind report of blank. So the person who's not on the air is going through that information and or setting up new storm timelines. So like I would run back into the weather center, set up new storm tracks, because that's obviously one of the most important things. What time will the storm hit? Blank. And then when Carly is done, she'll send it to me. I'll present some new information. I'll be in here looking at the chat, etc., talking to everybody else, producers, whomever, who are talking to me. And then we volley it back and forth. Personal note, I'm also more than likely, when I'm not on the air, texting my wife and saying, hey, this is going to pass north of you. You don't have to get in the basement because, we've got animals at home that she wants to, I've told this story that tornadoes coming to the house, and if I'm at the house, my wife does not care a lick about me. She will grab those animals, get down in the basement, and I am there to fend for myself. So, so she's always concerned about that aspect of things as well. Um, so there's a lot that you juggle, and I think in a broadcasting sense that uh, information can be relevant. For example, if I weave in, hey, I just want, to the viewers, hey, I just want you to know that in that little break where Carly was talking, I just texted my wife. We live down in Johnson County in the Olathe area. Basically, I just told her, you don't have to worry about this storm. So it humanizes what we're doing. And the flip side too. I'll also say sometimes, hey, I just texted my wife. I told her I want her in the basement right now. So when you humanize a story like that, people who might be more hesitant to get themselves into a safe spot could relate to that perhaps a little bit more. And they're like, oh, well, he just told his wife to get into the basement. Maybe we ought to get in the basement. That's all I want. I want him to take action in an ideal world. I know that's dramatic and tough to do sometimes. But if I could get them to think, in a sense, outside the box, where I'm not just blathering on, we're showing colors on the TV screen that people really still don't understand. They may hear the sirens, they may not hear the sirens. So if I could get them to take an action, that's my goal. That's my goal. We can't do, no TV meteorologist, nobody in the world can do anything. If an EF5 is going to come down on top of your mobile home, we can't do anything about that.
Right.
What we could try to do is we could try to get you out of that mobile home, or get into a community area or something like that.
Of course.
And we'll talk about that too on the air. So a lot of stuff that you think about. But in the end, while people want that weather information and they want that specific information, I also think they want you to relate to them one-on-one, because they're a little freaked. There are some very tornado phobic people here.
Indeed. I used to be one. So.
After that tornado in the early 2000s, for 2 years afterwards, people were freaked.
Yeah.
And this happens in every other city where there's a big tornado.
That's sad. That's very understandable, though. That I really like that how you point out with making the connection. I think that's something I forget quite often, especially not on the TV. In high school, I did do broadcast for quite a bit and was able to go really far, do well, and it always seemed whenever there was a big severe weather threat, either the storm obviously didn't happen, or I was not the one covering it. So it was very but every now and then I did get up there in front of the green screen and say, hey, yeah, there's an enhanced risk or blah, 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 or whatever. But it was important to know how much weather I wanted to put into it. And then also how much that I also had to remember at the end of the day that whenever there was something bad happening, or a severe weather event, or there were a couple times I was able to cover a winter storm too. So that was fun. But either of those things, I was like, well, what is it from their perspective? I'm like, because other students are like, well, they're thinking, well, I have practice night. Am I going to have that? Or I'm going out of town. What should I be cautious of? Or I'm driving through here. I have a party or whatever, something like that. And it's interesting to remember, I guess I'd have to remember, how can I make sure that I'm conveying what I need to, and something that they're going to take away from this, even though they're not fully invested. You know what I mean? Because a lot of students, at the end of school, you just want to go home. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's how I was. The news would be on in the background or whatever. That's like how our school news worked, basically. So I'd have to think, well, could I use bullet points, or for visuals? What kind of visuals could I use, or what things do I verbalize and what things do I not waste my time on? So that was definitely an interesting balance. If it was severe weather, it'd be like, well, the impacts today, usually it was wind, but it's like, we might have wind, or we could have strong winds and maybe a spin up tornado. There was only 1 or 2 days where I was like, oh, a strong tornado might actually happen. But something like that. And then for winter, of course, the other thing would be power outages. Just various impacts like that. Things like, so people, what would get people's attention, like, well, we care about protecting, or what about my car if there's going to be hail, or you know falling limbs if there's wind, and power outages, all that important stuff that might factor into someone's day. It's like, maybe think about that. Or with snow, it's like everyone wants to know how much are we going to get, or how are we going to have school tomorrow. And so that was always difficult. It's like everyone wants an exact number, but you kind of have to give a range, and then provide kind of, I guess, pointers on like maybe how somebody should go about their day, or what steps they could take to be prepared. So it was definitely an interesting balance, and I have a lot of respect for you for being able to manage that so well, because definitely that did get challenging at times, for sure. And then that's just the broadcast side of it at school, but then of course the extracurricular side of it with Hunter Hurley and I's Facebook group, which grew to this whole thing basically, where it's like this last year I could have done a lot better. It was a very busy year. But it's like, it was a very bit for me personally. I'm just saying, like, that, like, weather wise, it was like, it did have some extremes, but it wasn't like insane. So, but there were a couple events I think, like, oh, I could have done better, like, where maybe I wasn't, didn't give as much heads up that I wanted, maybe, or because, in the years prior, like, especially when I was first starting that group out, like, it was still in that more nerdy phase before it became more like a more formal and communication centered group, if that makes sense. So I think the boy who cried wolf effect was a lot more prevalent, which, like, with me back then. If that makes sense. Like 2022.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, 2022. There was, in April, there was like a week out, like 5 days or so out in April 2022. It looked like the world was going to end with like a multi-day outbreak, like tornadoes and stuff. And of course, I wasn't as experienced with the GFS and the Euro and all that kind of stuff, and how systems, now it's like, you see there's certain patterns there where you can tell it's like, this is going to trend in this way, probably, don't take this so seriously yet. But back then, I took it more literally. And, maybe 4 days out, I might say the tornado outbreak's coming or whatever. But then, of course, I learned, pretty quickly, that's not a good idea to do that. So, and then I think I kind of took like the opposite turn, and then maybe don't provide enough heads up, especially on some events. Hunter has been absolutely tremendous in helping me, though. So he jumps on a lot of stuff as well, whether it's I get busy and I forget, or I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow or whatever, But that's another balance in itself, is knowing when to provide information. Like, I think is just as important as knowing what to provide. So it's like, in that group, it's very similar. It's like, well, what is important? What do they need to hear? Not necessarily what do I want to hear, or want to say, but what do they need to hear? So,
well, you've got to figure out who your audience is. If your audience is hardcore weather peeps, then you change the information you provide. If your audience is ordinary people, then you have to change that information. People are fascinated by information, but in my opinion, I don't think during that type of stuff, I don't like getting too nuts and boltsy with it, because I think you lose people.
Yep.
I don't like showing three-dimensional things if I don't have to, unless it's something I really think it's pretty neat to show. Neat in the weather geek world.
Yeah, of course.
I want to keep things as simple as possible. People, ordinary people, will listen to you to some degree, and maybe pay a little more attention in a significant weather type event, but they're not necessarily listening to every single word you say. They're making sure the kids are with them. They're running around looking for the pet dog. They're thinking of 18 other things. They're trying to figure out where in their house or apartment, whatever, where the best place to go. So they're listening a little bit to you, but they're not listening fully to you. And that's one of the reasons why you have to kind of repeat information a little bit more especially during those times. Um, so you just gotta know your audience, and your audience smart, a lot smart, but typically when we hear about post tornado surveys, and the Weather Service will do this, the whole Linwood thing, um, nobody, lost my thought, but in the post tornado surveys, basically from Linwood, people knew what was going on. They knew what was coming. They were watching whatever TV station they were watching. They got all into a safe place. Nobody died. Amazing. I mean, it's an EF4 tornado. Granted, it was an EF4 for 33 miles or whatever the track was.
Yeah.
But, Andy Bailey at the time, who worked at the Weather Service there, said it came back time after time after time, that the role of local media, local TV stations was critical, as was their
Right.
Weather Service's great warnings that were issued and
Yes.
the information they were providing to us. So it was a real, that's the purpose of this IWT, the Integrated Warning Team. It was a real team effort, and it paid off on that particular day. Now, are we fortunate that the tornado hit where it hit compared to what happened in St. Louis
Yeah.
last year? Yep. Because what happened in
Very
St.
bad.
Louis last year absolutely 1000% can occur through KCK
Yep. It's very scary.
and KCMO. And every time we do well, not every time, but especially when we were doing those stories for the first couple of months, every time we would do a story, I would say, that can happen here, that can happen here, that can happen here, and that can happen here.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah.
And people don't fully absorb that.
Even I don't sometimes. I mean, even I have
Right.
to remember, it's like,
Thank goodness, last year was St. Louis's year. Will there be a year where it's Kansas City's year in the worst kind of way? Somewhere down the road there will be.
yeah.
Hopefully after I retire,
Yeah.
it'll be fine. But so yeah.
Yeah. It's that.
Know your audience. That's the big thing. Know your audience.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah. That is probably like obviously it's for us as weather enthusiasts, it's easy for us to go. It's like, we get it pumped up. Oh, there's storms and tornadoes possible, or we're going to get a foot of snow. And then, but of course it's going to absolutely wreak havoc on everyone's, work, whenever that, but it's just, so being able to not only translate all the nitty gritties, but also, understand the impacts and address those. Like I try my hardest, but I still think even then it's like I need to work on, like remembering what this is like from the average Joe's shoes.
Yeah.
Kind of like during the pandemic, all of us trying to learn the updates of all that. Which was like me, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I just want to know, am I going to be at school or am I not? Or am I able to do this? Am I not? And from my perspective, I'm just scared. I don't know, so, I try my best to maybe think about things like in the posts, if we're going to have something move through around school. I know May 19th, of this past year, forecast to be a huge day, was not tornado wise. Very, very terrible storms, 80-mile-an-hour winds, baseball hail, very bad, but not at all what it looked like tornado wise this year, thankfully. But I know that had me a little nervous because, number one, it kind of did have some parallels, I thought, to May 28th, just a little bit, kind of that warm front, prefrontal kind of confluence, convection, clusters that might mature into a supercell, overcast, yet a lot of moisture still. Very strange kind of feeling like that. I think we had a 10 hatched that day. And I did see that it was going to happen at school or at, whatchamacallit, in school hours. I remember thinking like, well, I should probably address that. Same thing with March 14th. I knew we weren't going to have anything as far as tornadoes, but as far as wind, it had been windy all day. So you got to think about things like, well, certain people or certain kids from school, and me, I guess I was one even at the time, that walk back, even if not totally from school, walk back from their bus stops, and then there are kids who do walk back from school and things like
Right.
that. And I'm like, well, that's important. If it's been windy all day and you've had 60-mile-an-hour winds all day, and then you have a severe storm at 70 or 80, and then now think about all the loose branches that could come down from all the lingering winds going on still. And there's just all sorts of things like that to factor in that, wouldn't have thought of probably, so yeah, there's definitely certain things, whether it's school, whether it's work, sleep, even, there's all sorts of things, ways to connect with, I think, with people's daily lives that are out there. So, yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a delicate balance, basically,
Mm-hmm.
between presenting information in a digestible way, you're kind of chasing your tail a little bit too on this. Some cities uh, have malfunctioning siren systems. You got to chase your tail on. All right, now if you live in Johnson County, you're hearing the sirens. That tornado warning is in effect for Wyandotte County. Don't worry about the sirens that you're hearing. So you have to, de-stress the situation too. So you're juggling stressing certain things and then trying to de-stress certain things. One of the things I try to do is, um, if I have enough help, create a graphic that shows basically, or say, hey, if you live west of a line, if you live on the Kansas side up to the state line, you are in the clear. A lot of people just want to know that it's okay. So, so they could continue living their lives, go to the softball game, take
Mm-hmm.
the kids out to a soccer match, whatever. Um, so again, it's a know your audience thing. Don't talk down to them,
Yeah.
but don't make it super duper complicated. One of the things that, when it gets cold, I try not to. Sometimes I fall into my own trap. So, yep, you better put on your winter coat. It's minus 30 degrees. Well, yeah, put on
I
the,
should.
yeah. Um, so it's always a delicate balance, and people are flipping channels. That's the other thing
Mm-hmm.
that we're fully cognizant of. People will watch station A for a bit. They'll flip over to station B for a bit. They'll perhaps flip over to a C or a D. Who's showing what? Who's talking about my area, especially when we have multiple events going on within the same event.
Mm-hmm.
What I think we do pretty well at, that's something that I've been stressing for the last couple of years with the team, is if we do have multiple events at the same time, I want so and so to cover. You are just responsible for the tornado warning in Clinton County,
Mm.
Missouri. That is your tornado warning. Every time I talk to you, I want you to talk about that.
I like that. That's,
I will take care of the tornado. So we're in a sense sectorizing.
that's cool. Yeah.
And uh, there'll be some generalities in there too,
Mm-hmm.
if we're into long form coverage, just to kind of reset our minds a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But sectorizing is something that I think we do pretty much on our own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a better way of maintaining super long continuous coverage where you may not be saying the same exact thing for 40 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
All right. We're saying the same thing, but we're talking about 2 different areas or 3 different areas. God forbid, 4 different areas.
Yikes.
And at least it kind of keeps things moving a little bit.
For sure. I really like that sectorizing thought, or that practice very much, like because everyone has their own kind of strengths and weaknesses sometimes too.
Yeah.
So like I know with our group, Hunter and some other people, are very much like they like are very very good with outlining the scientifics and everything behind the event, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so it's like they can do a lot of that, and then that kind of takes away from what I have to do in that area, if that makes sense. So like I know, I think you may say like, like as far as not only the expected hazards, but the reasons why, and maybe boundaries and things like that, and also with the graphics as well. Very very cool. And so I think it's definitely well when everybody kind of chimes together and you let everyone kind of do their own strengths. That definitely helps for sure. It's also an interesting point you raise about the what was it like the yeah about the it can happen thing. Yeah, that's definitely because especially prior to 2024, as you know, we didn't really have much of any severe weather outside of severe wind events. You know what I mean? So apart from we had both lineage tornadoes, which would have been big trouble had they hit a populated area for sure. But yeah, 21 and 23. But other than that, I mean, yeah, we went. It would have been very easy for some to get complacent and fall out of practice what to do with severe weather, all that kind of thing. And then the Independence tornado happened this year, which that was very scary. But thankfully, it did not end up being as bad as we thought it was at the time. But that was the first event where I think where it was very much like, oh, okay, I really have a job to do now with this group or whatever, because
Right.
but it escalated very quickly. It wasn't like a May 28th where it was like, oh, we're going to
Right.
have severe weather 4 days from now. It wasn't like that.
And those are the majority of our events
For sure.
where,
Yeah.
sometimes on the air, I'm just saying, well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all right, now we got to shift gears.
Yeah.
The ones that, from a covered standpoint, the rogue warnings, if you're single-handed in the office, oh, it'll just be thunderstorms. Oh, it'll just maybe be a 60-mile-an-hour wind and something fluky happens, and now there's a tornado warning for 25 minutes, and it's just you.
Yeah.
And not fun.
Yeah. That definitely
Not fun. Not fun. Not fun. Not fun.
Yeah.
Because you're trying now to gather information and talk and present information, and the newsroom may not be newsroom probably is not ready for it. It's just you.
Yeah.
And for something that may or may not ever come down, touchdown, not enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure.
Whenever the day comes, I will not miss those at all.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give you a couple more minutes, and then I'm thinking about doing creating a graphic about tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, just I guess one more thing real quick, more so about you, I guess. What do you, as much as you feel comfortable, what do you like to do outside of weather? Just kind of, yeah.
I'm a kind of a routine-oriented guy. So golf is fun for me. In the golf season, I'll typically play once a week. I'm in the gym 5 days a week, trying to keep the weight off that I've lost. And then for vacations, I'm a huge traveler. I love to go. I'm not very good at sitting at home doing nothing. That does not work well for me.
Yeah.
And then I'm obsessively, compulsively, ridiculously looking at weather models, and Twitter/X.
Yeah.
We're constantly being asked questions on Twitter and Facebook and the whole 9 yards. So I try to, even if I'm not working, I try, if somebody knows at midnight I'm looking at the European model, especially during this time of year, and if I see something I'll send out a tweet. Hey, interesting run, snow lovers.
Yeah.
It might be vague, but it'll pique some interest.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I forget, but I mean, yeah, if there's ever like a big snow run that comes out, especially if I see somebody else post it, I try to tag you on it. Cause I'm like, oh, I know somebody who
like
this. So,
well, and that's a whole nother discussion for when we have a different amount of time.
Yeah,
The whole social media thing is a whole thing.
very much. And now we have AI, like you said. Just
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. I definitely as far as broadcast goes, definitely like leaving it open, but I know that the landscape's changing, so definitely, like you say, media is, when we have more time, that would be a good thing to talk about, because I think a lot of it's definitely headed there. And I mean, I do miss doing the TV in front of school a little bit, covering, there's going to be storms, might be a tornado. Hey, so I think I can say it with confidence. We're all going to have a snow day tomorrow. I do miss doing all that, but definitely taught me a lot about communicating. So
it's
respect
when you get it going and you're relating to the audience well, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah. So, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for. Oh, what's that?
You are welcome.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear. Oh, thank you. Just love talking to you every single time. Thanks for your time, and also all the support and everything. So you do great work. I know you get hate comments, but you are absolutely loved, not just by me, but not even just by the weather community, but by all sorts of people here. You've been tremendous inspiration.
I'll leave you with this. The hate comments, when you're younger, you take those more seriously. I'm to the point, I couldn't care less.
There you go.
If a person is repetitively hateful and just always says bad things in a comment or something like that, that's what mute and block are for.
Yep.
Peace out. We're done. I'll give them a warning. I'll give them 2 warnings, and then after that, I click. You're done.
You got better things to do with your energy.
Yeah. But thank you.
Of course.
All righty, Mike. Good luck up at college this semester.
Thank you. Oh boy, yeah. Thank you. I'll get through it. It'll be fun though. It'll be fun. It's been great. It's been a lot of
good
fun.
Deal.
So
good deal. All right, take it easy.
Thank you. You too, sir. You have a good night. Good luck with the graphic and everything. Take care.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.